Just a little background on me before I start. I grew up on the south side of Chicago, and I actually went to Marist High School, if any of you are familiar with that. And then for the past 4 years, I went to the University of Alabama, where I studied chemical engineering, and then I got a minor in math. And then in my free time, I really like to do photography, play basketball, travel, and go to concerts. So in my presentation today, I'm kind of just going to go over my application and decision process when going to college, the college courses I was required to take, and my school-specific flow chart, extracurriculars I was involved with, and then my internship experience. And then I'll kind of go into how I got to my current career and what I do on a day-to-day basis. So as I mentioned, I went to the University of Alabama and I majored in chemical engineering and minored in math. And a cool thing at Alabama was for chemical engineering, you had to take, I think, at least 5 of the required classes to get a math minor anyways. So you just had to add 2 more on. So that's always something to look into when you're looking at minors. A lot of the time in engineering, you have to take so many of a certain area that you might as well just add 2 more to gain a minor. So now, why did I choose engineering? I honestly had no idea what I wanted to do when I was in high school. I just always knew I had a math and science interest. So I was thinking maybe the business route, maybe something with science. And then I thought about it more, and I really wanted to do a hands-on job. I didn't want to have a desk job and just sit at a desk and calculate numbers all day. I wanted to do something more personal where I'm going on doing something with my hands and not just sitting around all day. And then just saw a question, what other colleges were you interested in, or was it just Alabama? So my junior year, my family took me on like a little road trip over spring break where we kind of stopped at a few colleges. One was U of I. I honestly didn't love U of I, but it did have a really good engineering program as well. And I had a lot of friends that enjoyed that going there for engineering. I think I just really preferred the warmer weather. That was one thing, but these scholarships are another thing that I was looking at Alabama. I knew a few kids from my area who had applied there, and these were just a great financial aid when looking at schools. And then I think those were my main two, honestly. It was really just, did I want to stay in state or did I want to go away to Alabama? And then another thing that Alabama has to offer is they have, if you apply through the engineering school on your application, you will automatically be considered for the engineering leadership scholarship, which is an additional 2,500 a year for 4 years based on your ACT or SAT scores. Okay, so now getting into college courses. Basically, all engineering will require you to take calculus 1, 2, and 3. You can't really avoid that. A lot of the times you'll have to take differential equations, which is another math course, and then physics 1 and 2 is required. For Alabama, and I think most schools, you are required to take classes like you'll have to take at least one science class. You'll have to take, I think it's called a history or social behavior class, and then a fine arts class and an English class. So those are just things to keep in mind. But with chemical engineering specifically, you will have to take organic chemistry, which can be a really difficult class. Heat transfer, thermodynamics, fluid flow dynamics, unit operations, and then most engineering colleges will have a senior design course. And this can either be your last 2 semesters or just your final semester where you're kind of just working on a project that incorporates all of your previous course material, and you're working with the team throughout the semester on that project. So if you are interested in engineering, I really recommend if you have the option to do pre-calculus or AP Calc, chemistry, physics, anything along those lines will definitely prepare you well. But personally, I didn't do AP chemistry and it was still fine, but it definitely would have helped having that background information in high school if you're looking into that. Another big thing with AP courses or dual enrollment courses, or I think they're also called IB courses at schools. I might have that wrong, but these are the ones that you can transfer over to college. And this can be extremely helpful. At least for me, it was because I was able to test out of having to take any English or history classes by getting, I think it's if you get a 4 or above on the AP exams. And this allows you to free up your schedule tremendously and save money because you don't have to pay for those courses. So definitely look into anything that involves dual credit because that can be helpful financially and when lightening your load. I'll show you, this is my flow chart at the University of Alabama. And if you look in the bottom left over here, it shows the history, social behaviors, and English. And I was able just to cut those out and really just focus in on the classes that I needed for my major. Another big thing when going to school is engineering just involves a lot of prereq classes, meaning you have to take this specific class to move on to the next one. So definitely work with a career advisor wherever you go to set up your schedule because you want to make sure you're on track to graduate at the time you want. And also some classes may only be offered one semester versus like spring semester versus fall semester. So definitely work with a career advisor. That helped me a lot with staying on track, especially with all these classes. It can get kind of confusing. Um, Another thing I did was I did take physics over the summer at my community college just because that helped me lessen my load. I was never great at physics, so I really needed the extra time. And I know that's not always an option, but it is something to look into if you do want to have less schoolwork during the actual school year. And then if you see over here, Alabama has this cool thing where they offered so you have to take a senior year lab, which is 2 semesters long, but you also have the option to combine that class and take it over the summer. And this will help in lighten your load for those 2 semesters. And you also have the opportunity to take it internationally. I was considering this, but I prefer to look into getting an internship my junior year summer. So that's what I ended up doing, but it was a cool option to have as well. Here's an example of my senior design one mini project. So this was my fall senior year project where you were working with a group of 4 students. I think mine was just assigned randomly, and you're really just bringing all of the equations, knowledge, everything from the past 4 years, and putting it together into one big final project, which we presented out. We created, I think it was like a poster board for it, and it's a little confusing to explain, but we're basically, just read the first bullet point up here. Simulate the overall process using ChemCAD, which is a software that was given to us that we used throughout our junior year, so it wasn't unfamiliar. And then using ChemCAD process simulator for both absorption, desorption for CO2 capture process without mass and heat integration, and absorption, desorption for CO2 capture process with mass and heat integration. And that might sound like a lot, and honestly, to me, it still confuses me a little bit. I would have to reread it and go over these things because it's a lot of information pulling at once. But the resources that were available in Alabama made doing projects like these not very difficult because you had your teammates, you had your professors for office hours, you had resources online, and you just had a lot of support. So I never felt like anything was too challenging to be completed. Everything always got done, and I felt good about the final outcome. I never felt lost. So just having the support system at school is very important. So always make sure to utilize professors' office hours when you go away to school. Find people that you can work with and just have a good system, because with engineering specifically, it can be easy to get left behind if you're not constantly working on your knowledge and making sure you know every part of the equation, because if you forget one small thing, you might not be able to figure out the rest. We also got to add costs into this, so that was cool to kind of simulate our project to the real world and a little look into manufacturing itself, and that's what I ended up doing now. So it was cool to have a background into the costing with the equations we've learned throughout the 4 years. So outside of the college courses I was in, I was also involved with 2 extracurriculars, which was Society of Women Engineers and the Global Home of Chemical Engineers. These were just 2 communities on campus that my classes really encouraged us to go to, and I think some even offered extra credit for it. So there was usually bi-weekly meetings for these groups, and people that had graduated the University of Alabama and were in the working world came back and kind of presented on what they were doing now and what kind of industries you could go into with your degree. And that was a really good opportunity for both kind of learning what I can do with my degree and also networking. it's very important to try to make connections and learn from people that have already graduated and are in the working force, because they can potentially help you get an internship in the future. So those were very important to go to, and also knowledgeable. And then outside of those, I had a part-time job in our chemical stockroom in the labs. This was nice because I was able to work on homework when it wasn't busy. So finding a job on campus can be helpful if you do need to make some money on the side, but then finding a work study job, which I was eligible for, allowed me to do homework as well, so I wasn't overwhelmed. So when looking at the internship side of things, the one thing I would have to say is apply early and apply for everything. You might apply for 50 and only hear back from two. It's a big pool of people that are applying for these internships, so it's important just to apply for as much as possible. Another tip I would have is utilize career centers at school and reach out to older classmates and professors for advice. I kind of knew of two older classmates that had already gone through internships, and really just asked them, how did you do it? Where did you go? What advice do you have when moving forward and looking for internships? And then professors as well. They've been teaching, or most of them have, if anything, have been around for a while. They know the process of how students are getting internships, how they're getting jobs. So talk with them because they'll be your greatest resources. And then the Career Center at my school also had resume workshops and mock interview situations. So definitely look into career centers. I'm sure they're at almost every school, where you can talk with an advisor and look over your resume together, try kind of make fixes to it. That's what I did before I started applying. And then also I did mock interviews because it's always good to practice. Just have some questions in mind of what typical interviews are like and have a general idea of how you would answer that question. It just helps and makes things less nervous when you're talking with recruiters. And then finally, determine if you are willing to relocate. This was a big thing for me because I was already at Alabama, and then I was looking at internships back home, but a lot of the time, people that were, or companies that were coming to Alabama for internship were located in the South. So I had to determine if I was willing to kind of stay down there for the summer or maybe try to find something back up north. And then another big thing is going to career fairs. This is just gives you a good opportunity, if anything, to talk with people and practice, kind of get an idea of what internships are out there. And from there, you can go on to, we use a software called Handshake that just had a bunch of companies and job openings, and you would apply automatically through there. But there's also LinkedIn too. So just kind of, or even Safari, you really can just kind of Google what you're looking for and just apply to anything you see. So I decided to make the choice and be open to relocate as long as a stipend was given, which most internships, if you are relocating for it, they will give you a stipend for moving costs and living costs. So I decided to accept a supply chain internship at PepsiCo and end up working at the Tampa, Florida facility. This was a soda, tea, and water plant. I honestly really didn't know I wanted to do food manufacturing. I was kind of just open to anything because I still had a year left of school, and I just knew any work experience would look good on my resume. I ended up staying in food manufacturing for now, but I don't know. There's still so much time left. If you don't love what you do, you can still look into other things, but it's a good start just to get experience with different areas of work. And through my internship, I was able to manage 3 different projects. One of them involved the tanks that hold the syrup for soda and how long it takes for them to clean out. And my project was to determine if we could speed up that process, make it more efficient somehow, use less water. So I was taking samples throughout the whole summer and kind of working with the entire workforce at the Tampa facility and just getting feedback. It was honestly more of an experience of just trying to to work with people that have been in a field that you're unfamiliar with too. Just having that experience to talk with them, ask questions, and then also it was cool to do kind of like a more science type of project versus sitting at a desk and doing numbers. All right. So now I'll talk about kind of what I'm in now and the role that I'm working. So when I got back to school, I actually was offered a job back at the Tampa facility, but I really just decided I wanted to move back to Chicago. So I decided to just continue to look for new jobs. I found a lot through Handshake. And again, you're not going to always hear back from those. But one day I was scrolling on LinkedIn and I saw this MLP program at Ferrara. So this is exactly what it says on the application portal. So I'll just read it real fast. As a part of this highly selective program, you will participate in a series of rotational assignments across Ferrara's manufacturing operations, including production, quality, maintenance, engineering, environmental health and safety, inventory supply, and more. As a member of the Manufacturing Leadership Program, you will gain unparalleled experiences of the entire manufacturing process and have tremendous opportunities for growth and development. We are looking at you to be the next leaders at Ferrara. And this was something I was super interested in because I love the idea of doing different roles because I still don't know what I want to do exactly with my career. So having the opportunity to try out these um, different departments was something I was super interested in. Another big thing is I'm super interested in research and development, which is also an option. I have there's some kids in the program a year above me that are now in the research or the product development side of things. So they actually get to make new candy flavors, which I think is so cool. And I'm really hoping I get that next rotation. But I just love the opportunity of trying different things, seeing what I like, and going from there. So ways you will make a difference: lead by example, be a collaborative team player who builds a strong rapport for production employees, aim to not only meet but exceed production goals, focus on safety, and always strive to leave things better than they were. Experience and skills that we support your success. Spring 2024 grad completing a bachelor's degree in engineering. So this is obviously the application for this year's, but it's very broad. If you have an engineering degree, they will potentially look at you as a candidate. Lean experience. So that just means having experience in a manufacturing plant before is a plus. Strong presentational skills and demonstrated leadership abilities. So I got super lucky just scrolling on LinkedIn and finding this, and it all ended up working out with this. So again, as I said, I applied through LinkedIn. I received a phone call, I think a few weeks later from the talent acquisition team. And then we just continued contact via phone calls and emails. And then from there, they set up 3 interviews through Zoom. And that's something, again, that I prepared for, looked at typical interview questions and did mock interviews. And then once those interviews are complete, a lot of jobs nowadays are having you complete online assessments. And these can be quizzes, or the one that we took specifically was called the Watson Glaser Critical Thinking Appraisal. And you were basically given a short paragraph and 4 answers that all summed up the paragraph, and you had to pick the one that summed it up the best. And my tip for these are just looking up practice examples again, because practicing anything will definitely help you. And then another thing was a personality scale. And this was obviously just based off your own answers. But a lot of jobs that I did apply for, I think P&G had this as well, and Kraft and Pepsi. So they're all using these types of application portals nowadays too. Oh, can you make these slides available? Yes, I'll make these slides available. I think I can send them over. So this is a typical day at, or a typical week at my job right now. So I go into the manufacturing plant every day. I know a lot of jobs are now hybrid, but when you're in manufacturing, you're kind of there every day. You have to be, especially in safety. I'm helping people on the floor. So my first role is environmental health and safety. I've never had experience with it before, and that's okay because they're very supportive. They want you to learn things that you are not used to. That's the whole point of the leadership program. So if you can find a leadership program out of college, I highly recommend applying for it if you don't know exactly what you want to do, because it will give you the chance to try different departments and see what you really are passionate about. So what I do is when they say drum beats, you're just kind of going to part of machine and talking with the operators, making sure everything's running smoothly and there's no issues on the floor. I go to team meetings across the network. So there are 5 Ferrara factories in the Chicagoland area, and each factory has a EHS team. So we meet every week and kind of discuss what's going on across the board to make sure we're all aligned. And then on Fridays, we have the weekly manufacturing safety call, which is across all sites. So we actually just acquired Jelly Belly. So, and Dory, which is a Brazilian company. So all sites from across the world connect on that call and kind of just get to talk about what's going on at their factory, and it rotates who presents every week. So that's cool to hear from Thailand, I think, is on it, and Brazil. So those are just cool to kind of connect with people across the world. And then lastly, I help set up alchemy training, which is just yearly retraining on safety behavior in the workplace, safety videos, kind of knowing what food safety is, anything along those lines. So again, I attend meetings for all departments. I share the safety updates. Manufacturing has to be super collaborative to make things work. So there's a quality department, safety department, production, and all 3 have to be aligned to make sure things are running smoothly at the plant. I also run the safety committee meetings at my plant. So there's people on the floor. So these are the people that are packing the candy themselves. Not everything is automated in manufacturing. So we actually have people on the floor helping put the candy bags into boxes. And that's just the people that are coming to their safety committee meetings too, because they are around the hazards the most during the day. I also check water meters, pH levels daily. So our wastewater gets sent back out, but it has to be sent at a certain pH. So I go and check those tanks every morning. I don't specifically do the measurements, but they have a system for it, and I just make sure it's at the right levels every day. I make sure all employees are properly trained in whatever they're doing. We don't want someone working on a piece of equipment that they've never seen before. Obviously, that could be a safety hazard. So just making sure people have the proper training and authorization to use machinery. Again, I work with all safety at all 4 our sites. I've had the chance to visit all the sites now in the Chicagoland area. Hopefully one day I can go to the ones overseas, but for now I've been to the Chicago ones, and those have been pretty cool. They always give out candy when you make visits, and then I keep track of personal projects. So as a part of the MLP program, they want each individual to have a specific project to work on throughout the year. And mine has been creating fall protection on one of our packaging machines. So I've been working with all the different departments on trying to get that set up at one of our machines. And then probably the coolest thing is I get to try candy. I think it's like once or twice a week for sensory testing. I have to look at the packaging, the codates, try the flavors, look at the color, texture, all of that. And we have iPads at the facility where you can type in your information and give basically a review on if it passed or not. So that was probably the coolest thing about my job. And yeah, that's pretty much all I have. If you guys have any more questions, I'll be happy to answer them now. And also, if you want to connect with me on LinkedIn, it's just my full name. And if you're ever looking at something like this again, I could always send you the MLP link when you're at the time to graduate.
Okay, thank you for that great presentation. So we are going to move into the Q&A section now, unless Ms. Kallianis has anything else she wants to add. If not, we'll just go into questions.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. I think if you guys have any more questions, though, let me know. I'm happy to answer anything, whether it's school related, job related, internship related.
So I guess I'll get the conversation going. To start off, I think you mentioned that while you were in university, you were working that work-study job. How was doing that and also managing your college curriculum and your college work? How was that something you properly spent?
Yeah, so it's something definitely to get used to at first. You really just want to make sure you stay organized with any degree, whether it's engineering or not. I preferred having a written planner, kind of marking down what I need to do. Having that job, I was lucky enough to be able to work on schoolwork and homework while I was there. So I got lucky. It could I couldn't get that much done, but I definitely could get a little bit done. So that definitely alleviated the stress of it. But it was only, I think, around 8 to 10 hours a week, so it wasn't overkill. And I definitely worked with my boss to allow me to have time when I needed to. So if you find someone that knows the struggle of engineering or science classes, they will help you